very difficult things actually. Second one, being my father. The first one, being his daughter. I'll tell you why. Some years back, my dad was at his dramatic best. I'm so ashamed of you. All my hard work and sacrifice has led to this. Don't you even understand me? This was in front of a huge crowd of people. I'm sure that crowd would have thought something like, perhaps his daughter ran away with a rogue or something. That wouldn't have been possible because I was just giving this. I was 7 years old, and this was after a parent-teacher meeting, my first parent-teacher meeting that I ever had. And unfortunately, I took my dad with me. This was in the early 90s, when parents don't question the teachers. They accept the teachers' opinions as the fact. And clearly, my teacher did not say anything good about me, and that my dad believed her entirely. Not just that, he dragged me to my Tamil teacher and told her, it's because of you she's almost failing in Tamil. It's because of you she failed in Tamil last term. And it's because of you that she doesn't get any interest to study them. Like I said, this was early 90s. Teachers were respected as gurus, not just by students, but also by their students' parents. Clearly, my dad was a rebel and he let out all his anger on my teacher. And my teacher was very patient at that point. The next day onwards, she took vengeance on me. She dragged me to the first bench. I wasn't like how I am now. At that time, I hated first benches, especially if it is Tamil classes, the classes that I hated the most. And she made me sit through the painful Agananuru, Tirukural, and all kinds of things that mostly went over my head. And she made sure that I was asked many questions in the class. It lasted for one whole week. The difficulties in school and the difficulties at home. At home, my dad made sure that I had no access to TV, no access to chocolates, no access to restaurants, no access to good clothes. Even if Diwali was just around the corner, I was forced to wear old clothes because my parent-teacher interview did not go. Thankfully, the only respite I had was adults then had very limited attention span, and my difficulties lasted for just 1 week, be it at school or be it at home. And adults started going about their normal lives after that. But this vicious cycle continued year after year after year. Clearly, I showed no improvement because I'm my father's daughter. If he was a rebel and if he could shout at the teacher, I was a rebel in another sense. I used to hide novels and storybooks inside my classroom books and spend my classes reading, happily reading all those nice novels and not pay attention at all. And that reflected in my report cards as well. I was a constant worry for my dad. One day he wanted me to break out of this vicious cycle. He called me. He was very kind, unlike him. He called me, he made me sit, and he was like, do you know, Rita ma'am is Priya's school teacher now. Rita ma'am is your mom's childhood friend. And today I had a parent-teacher interview. In case you're wondering who Priya is, she's my elder sister who's totally unlike me. She was a nerd and geek and whatnot. And not surprisingly, Rita ma'am happened to tell my dad that Priya's the smartest kid that she's ever come across. And she went on to add that she's not surprised. Like mother, like daughter, she went on to say. Before he could complete his sentence, I was like, oh, Appa, it's such a good news that Rita ma'am is Priya's class teacher. Now she'll get question papers and she'll talk with Rita ma'am's classes also. My dad was fuming in anger. How dare you say that? Priya doesn't need question papers unlike you. And I really hope Rita ma'am is never your class teacher. Then she will see you being dumb and she'll assume that you're dumb because I'm dumb. I had an epiphany moment that time. Papa, maybe that's why I'm dumb. I take after you and I don't take after Mama like Priya does. I saw my dad's face become as red as a tomato. He looked like a volcano about to erupt any time. And he did. He went on to list all his achievements right from his LKG till his college, and he even went on to list his achievements from his work, and he went on to talk about his hobbies, how good he is in plumbing, carpentry, and whatnot. I had to listen to all that, but he was so angry, he decided to stop talking to me for a week after that. Dear Toastmasters, that was the happiest week in my life at that point because I was free from my dad's taunts. He really hoped that I would change, that I will start showing interest in studies the way my sister does very effortlessly. Thankfully, it finally happened when I was in the final year of my schooling. My dad still tells his friend that probably a lightning struck me or something, which turned me into a new person who started liking to study. But then nothing that dramatic happened. It's just my dad's way of exaggerating. All that happened was I happened to like a guy who refused to like me back and take me out on a date because he called me dumb. And I wanted to show him that I'm not dumb. So I started studying more just so that I can get 1 mark more than him in all the subjects. And I did. And then I had the opportunity to call him dumb and refuse to go on a date with him. Dad doesn't know of any of these stories. He still thinks that a lightning struck me and made me study well. And 12th standard happened. I passed out in flying colors. And that was perhaps the first time I ever heard Dad utter, I'm really proud of you. And I hoped that was it. That will be the end of his taunts, and since then he'll stop taunting me. But then, that's quite a wishful thinking. I went on to my B school and I heard him taunt that I'm too aggressive. I went on to my first job, I heard him taunt that I'm not saving enough. I went to the US, I heard him taunt that I'm putting on weight, I should watch out. I bought a house and I heard him taunt, you have such high standards now for the boys that you meet. Perhaps his taunts will never end. But then, it's okay. Where it mattered, he was there. The red marks in my report cards and all the taunts about me putting on weight did not really bother me as much. But when life really threw curveballs at me and threatened to shatter me, he was there holding my back. When I met with the life-changing trauma, he said, you will get through this. When I went through heartbreaks, he said, those boys don't deserve me. When I was almost at the verge of losing my job, he said, he can see me going places already, if not here, in some other firm. Dear Toastmasters, maybe being his daughter is the most difficult thing in the world, but then I wouldn't have it any other way. Toastmaster of the day.